let me tell you what I feel like the hardest thing was for us in our relationship, especially as it refers to finances. I remember when we first met, and I thought to myself, this is the woman I'm going to marry. And I was right. I was right. But one of the things I realize now, and she realizes it too, is when you marry someone, you also marry their wealth mindset, whatever that mindset is.
Yes.
And so a lot of times we come from different backgrounds and different homes, and we don't know exactly what that wealth mindset is. And when I first met my wife and I got a chance to go to Indianapolis to visit her, she lived by herself. She had her own home. It was a very nice place. And I remember one of her bedrooms was a closet, like the whole bedroom. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. And she literally had, this is literal, and hopefully she doesn't mind if I tell it, but she literally had 300 pairs of shoes. Mm-hmm. Literally. Now, that's not an exaggeration. That 300 pairs of shoes. And I was like, why do you have all these shoe boxes? Because they were all in boxes. They were very well maintained. And she said, well, there's shoes in the shoe boxes. I was like, there's no way you could have shoes in every one of those shoe boxes. And she's like, go check it out. And so I remember walking over and I went to reach for one, and she said, that's a brown pair with this, this, and this. And I lifted it up, and that was what was in the box. And I said, what's in this box? That's a black pair with this. And so not only was there shoes in every box, she knew which shoes were in the box. And I thought to myself, this is just what I thought. I can't change now. What a wasted brain space. But really, it was interesting. And then I remember taking her to Topeka, Kansas, where I'm from. Now, keep in mind, she was from Indianapolis. She lived in Atlanta, Georgia, and I took her to
Topeka, Kansas.
Right? And that wasn't her favorite.
No, it was not.
No, it wasn't her favorite. And I remember bringing her to Topeka, Kansas. She worked for Macy's. She was a manager for Macy's over a couple of the departments. And I said, you'll love this. And so we got off on Wanamaker. It's very busy. All the stores that you know are there. She went into the mall. They said, you want to work at our mall? And they like, yeah. They said, we don't usually get people with your experience coming to our mall. So they hired her on the spot. They said, you just have to release your other position so we could put it into the system. And so she came out and she said, I said, what'd they say? She said, he said, I got the job. They don't usually get people with my experience coming. And then you wanted me to do what?
I wanted to see the rest of the town.
So she said, show me around the city. And I was thinking, well, I just did. We were on Wanamaker. That's the whole city. So I just started driving around, and she was like, really? What is this? I said, well, it's Topeka. And so I literally took her around, and I showed her about 6 or 7, I think at the time, different places, different houses and things like that. And then we got back to my house, and she's like, you tricked me, right?
Switch.
She said, you tricked me. And she said, I don't really understand. You showed me all this stuff, and I don't really get it. You took me by some houses. I don't really understand. And I said, well, remember when we came to Indianapolis and you showed me around your house, and you showed me your shoes and your closet and all this stuff. She's like, yeah, and you don't really have that many shoes, and you need some more. And I said, yeah. And I said, you remember we went around to those different houses? And she said, yeah. I said, me and my friend own all those.
Wow.
And so I get paid on the houses every month. And I don't think those 300 pairs of shoes are going to pay you. And even if you sold all of them, you're probably not going to get what we make each month from the houses. And it was just a different wealth mindset. And what the most difficult challenge that we had was balancing her coming from Atlanta, and remember she said her last name was Jones, keeping up with the Joneses, right?
And I did.
Right, because most people think that your wealth is based on what you could show. And that there's a difference between riches and wealth, because people who are wealthy, you look at Bill Gates, you look at Steve Jobs, they didn't walk around with a bunch of rings and a bunch of chains, and you wouldn't know that they were million or billionaires. You wouldn't know it because it wasn't important for them to show it to you. It was important for them to have it. And so we had to start looking at how could we see wealth differently to still let her get the things that she wants, but at the same time balance out what I knew was going to work out best for us. And so I think one of the most difficult things as a couple was kind of balancing that out and making it work so that we had a clear goal. And I think...
Well, I think, and a lot of it was getting with the right people.
Exactly.
And the right person.
Yeah.
You know, and you said coming from living in Atlanta, for 13 years, and I worked at all the exclusive department stores and what have you. And when, back in the early 90s, I was making tons of money. I wish I still had that money now. But the status was different than living in Kansas. Our status was you had to buy, you had to show, you had to have all the name brands. And again, yes, you had to have all the shoes and whatnot. So when spending, I should have been spending for myself. I should have been paying myself instead of paying Louis Vuitton and paying Ralph Lauren and paying Macy's and Dillard's and Bloomingdale's and all of those wonderful department stores. I should have been paying myself first. And it wasn't until I got with Ruben that I had to change my mindset. And that was the same thing that happened when going through the principles with Financially Fit, that you have to understand. I mean, I had student loans out the wazoo. You didn't understand that when going through college, as soon as you turn 18, they own the campus, they want to give you a credit card,
right.
And you get it. And they tell you that you only got to pay $10 and you can spend and you can buy. But it wasn't until you understand money, until you understand what you have to do with it. And the first thing you have to do and learn is to pay yourself.
Right.
And when you go through that coaching with your spouse, that you understand that together you have to work.
And what I love about the Financially Fit program, and maybe you've never heard about this concept, was creating a wealth vision.
Yeah.
See, when you create a vision, when we decided this is what we want our financial future to look like, this is what we want our debt to look like, decreasing every month, this is what we want our assets to look like, moving up every month. When you go through that wealth vision, it makes it easier because you're both on the same page. And so the biggest challenge we had to get was let us both get on the same page. And then once we were on the same page, it became easy to talk about money. That's another thing.
We're so afraid to talk about money.
We were afraid to talk about money because when I was younger, I was told, and maybe you heard
grown
this,
folks' business.
Stay out of grown folks' business. And so when we finally got our business, we didn't know how to run our business because every time I asked them about their business, they told me to stay out of it. And so now they have a community, the financiallyfit.com community, where you can ask those questions and nobody is going to get on you for asking, and nobody's going to tell you to mind your own business. What they're going to do is they're going to give you a solid answer based on principles that have been proven over and over and over again to help change your financial future. And so our biggest challenge initially was blending our financial vision, but the easiest thing was once we had it to move forward.
And I think a lot of times when couples get together, they're ashamed. Yeah, you're ashamed of how much you've spent and how much you haven't paid. And so I think the biggest challenge for us when we first did it, at least for me, was to tell Ruben what I have done. I had the American Express, I had the Discover card, I had a Sears charge card, I had a Macy's charge card, and then with my student loans, and then to come to him and tell him and then write it down and actually come together. You don't realize it until you actually see how much debt. I mean, I had a credit card for every single department store, and I didn't need that. But you don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
How did you two overcome that?
Through a strategy, through a plan. We overcame that by working diligently towards a new goal. And we created an offense-defense platform. We're going to bring the money in. That's not hard, but we have to protect it from going out. And if it does go out, we have to decide where it goes instead of having just financial leaks. Most of the people, they only look after the fact. As a matter of fact, most of the people at the end of the year when they get their statements, they're like, man, we made all that money? And then they ask this question, where did all the money go? And the reason they ask the question is because they never looked ahead of time. So the answer is not wondering where it went. The answer is deciding where it's going to go. And that's the power of having that one-on-one coach when you sign up for the personal program.
Yeah. You have to make sure that before you get paid, you have a plan for where it's going to go.
For where it's going to go. And the personal program is so effective at helping you find out what that plan is, creating your financial vision. And then what you'll start to see is it wasn't that it was that hard, it's that nobody ever told you. And so now we're on a mission to tell other people. One of the things I always believe is I want all of my friends to have the same knowledge that I have. So if I ever need to borrow something, they have it. No, no, but seriously, that we can enjoy our time together. I'm not going to keep it a secret. That's why being a cause champion, us being able to speak about it and tell other people about Financially Fit program and invite them to the program, that's why that has been so important to us. And so just like we have couples over for game night and nobody ever thinks twice about that, how about having them over for success night, where we talk about success principles and how we can help change each other's lives and invite them in the right direction. And whenever they ask us what that direction is, we have a simple statement, and that statement is financially fit.